In 2019, a baby was born in a bush in South Africa. The mother was only 34 weeks into pregnancy, but the baby was already dead. This is how she gave birth without going to a hospital. Perhaps she lived too far away, or maybe her village didn't have any. It could be that her family didn't have enough money for transportation, or that there weren't enough resources at the hospital for an emergency delivery. They can assist with both vaginal deliveries and cesarean sections, and are often better equipped to deal with emergencies than doctors. In most cases, giving birth without assistance is dangerous for both the mother and the baby. You probably wouldn't even believe it was happening to you until the baby was born. Imagine if no one had been there to help. Lucy, a British woman who found herself in this situation, said that she spent the last 2 hours of her labor screaming at the top of her lungs, which caused her to lose her voice by the time her baby was born. Fortunately, she was eventually found and taken off the island. Both she and her baby were fine. She went into labor at 4 a.m. but couldn't make it to the hospital in time. A passerby found her and helped deliver the baby. Luckily, both the mother and the baby were fine. In another case in 2016, a woman in Zimbabwe gave birth while sitting on a rock in a riverbed. She had been trying to get to the hospital but was too far from any medical care. A group of villagers came to her aid and helped her deliver the baby safely. If she's with other people, they'll need to work together to keep her safe and comfortable as she gives birth. In addition to the physical dangers involved in giving birth without medical assistance, the woman may also face emotional and psychological challenges. She may be scared, anxious, or overwhelmed, and she'll need to find a way to cope with these feelings while giving birth. In others, she may have had to rely on her own wits and the help of any other people she encountered. Giving birth in a bush without going to a hospital is a risky proposition, but it can be done. With careful planning and preparation, it is important to weigh the risks and benefits carefully and to have a backup plan in place in case something goes wrong. And don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. However, there are documented cases of solo births, meaning that the mother gives birth alone with no one assisting. What works for one person may not work for another. The best course of action is to work with a healthcare provider to develop a birth plan that takes into account all of the risks and benefits involved. In the case of the woman who gave birth in South Africa, both she and her baby were taken to the hospital and are reportedly doing well. Whether it's planning ahead or knowing what to do in an emergency, taking the necessary precautions can help ensure a positive outcome for both the mother and the baby. In 2015, a woman in Brazil gave birth while being attacked by mosquitoes. Did she have access to a phone or any other means of communication? Was she alone or with other people? Did she have any supplies such as blankets or towels? All of these factors could affect how the birth took place. She was camping in the Amazon rainforest with her partner and their 2 children when she went into labor. They set up camp on an island in the middle of the river, and she gave birth in a hammock. In others, she may have been walking home from the store when she realized she wouldn't make it to the hospital in time. Whatever the circumstances, it's important to remember that giving birth in the bush is a risky proposition. Although the mosquitoes made the experience miserable, both the mother and the baby were healthy. Most of the time, someone will be there to help, whether it's a friend, relative, or stranger. It is important to note that these stories usually involve women who are healthy and giving birth to a single baby. For women who are carrying twins or multiples, the delivery can be much more difficult and dangerous. Additionally, women who have pre-existing health conditions such as diabetes or high blood pressure are at increased risk of complications during delivery. In some cultures, total strangers will come together to help a woman give birth, even if they've never met before. Was she camping, hiking, or simply walking home from the store? Maybe she was abducted and taken to the bush against her will. Was it an accident that she ended up there, or something more sinister? All of these questions are important to consider when trying to piece together how a woman might give birth in a bush without going to a hospital. It's important to remember that childbirth is a natural process that's happened countless times throughout history. Women have given birth in all kinds of conditions and environments, and they've helped each other through it. These cases are rare and often take place in remote areas where there are no midwives or medical professionals available. However, they're not always available. In remote areas, the task of helping with the delivery may fall to someone else. For whatever reason, she found herself giving birth out in the open with no medical staff around. Welcome to my channel. Today we're answering the extraordinary question. The next thing we need to know is what kind of environment the woman was in. Some people also choose to give birth in remote areas because they don't trust the medical system or because they want to avoid the cost of medical care. If she was out in the middle of nowhere, miles away from civilization, she would have to rely on her own instincts to get her through labor and delivery. But if she was closer to civilization, she may have been able to flag down a passerby or call for help on a cell phone. How did this woman give birth in a bush without going to a hospital? Giving birth without going to a hospital might sound scary, but millions of women do it every year. And some even prefer it. In the United States alone, home births make up about 1% of all deliveries, which means that around 36,000 babies are born outside of hospitals annually. But what happens when there isn't even a home in sight? The first written record of a human birth goes back thousands of years. In ancient Egypt, a papyrus dating back to 1850 BC depicts a pregnant woman squatting while holding onto the hands of two midwives. The earliest cave paintings depicting childbirth date back 15,000 years and show a woman in a fetal position with others assisting and comforting her. For most of human history, women had to give birth at home with the help of family members, healers, or midwives. It wasn't until the mid-1800s that giving birth in hospitals became common practice. The first thing we need to know is why the woman didn't go to the hospital. In the absence of hospitals, we can look to history for clues. Women who give birth outside of hospitals today often do so with a midwife present. Midwives are trained professionals who specialize in delivering babies. The next thing we need to know is whether anyone was there to help. Imagine being stranded on a deserted island and going into labor. It would be terrifying, but also pretty surreal. Solo births aren't unheard of, but they're definitely the exception rather than the rule. Even if there's no one around who knows anything about giving birth, there are still things that can be done to help. It is worth noting that giving birth in remote areas is becoming more and more common due to factors such as poverty, lack of access to healthcare, and the desire to give birth in a more natural setting. In 2017, a woman in Kenya gave birth while standing in a maize plantation. Sometimes the environment can be just as challenging as the delivery itself. As long as the environment is safe and clean, it shouldn't pose a major risk to the mother or the baby. Knowing the environment helps us understand the next, which is what kind of situation the woman was in. In some cases, the woman may have been camping or hiking in the bush and gone into labor unexpectedly. If the woman is alone, she'll need to rely on her own strength and determination to get through labor and delivery. Luckily, most of the time everything works out okay. Finally, let's consider what kind of resources the woman had available to her. In some cases, the woman may have been able to call for help or flag down a passerby. It's also important to remember that every woman and every birth is different. While giving birth in a bush may not be the ideal scenario, it can happen and it's important to be prepared. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you ever heard of someone giving birth in a bush? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.